the office with Joseph Skoda. And today my office is at the Gaylord Resort and Casino. No, it's not a casino. Gaylord Resort in lovely Convention Center in Aurora, Colorado, just outside of Denver, where we just had a wonderful international convention with Toastmasters. And today I want to introduce you to a good friend of mine, Pam, from good old New York. Who I met her last year while we were at a convention in Chicago. But this year was different. We had a different experience. Tell my audience who you are and why you're here today.
Thank you, Joseph.
You're welcome.
I'm actually from Western and Central New York. I'm from Buffalo, not New York.
New York.
Everybody always gets it confused when you say New York and they think it's the other side. But there's only one place in New York and it's not.
That's true.
So I serve District 65, which is all of Central and Western New York. We have Syracuse, Rochester, Buffalo, all of the little areas surrounding, Binghamton, Corning, and Elmira as well.
You have Elmira also?
Elmira.
Ooh.
Yes.
It's not like Elvira. It's different.
No.
Okay, I got you.
Corning, though, is where they make the glass. They have the Corning Museum.
Really?
Yes. It's a very cool place.
Well, how long have you been involved in this wonderful organization? First of all, let's show your shirt. Look at that. International Convention, Colorado.
Nice.
I got my shirt here too, much
I've got
more
one
generic.
of those as well.
So it's one of those things you want to brag about.
Yes,
because of the organization.
absolutely.
So tell us a little about your journey.
Absolutely, sure. I started in Toastmasters in February of 2015 when a club chartered where I worked. It was looking to charter. And the person who introduced me to the club was somebody who didn't stand as tall as she was when she spoke. And I thought, I really want to see what this is about.
Sure.
And when I went, I fell in love with the speakers, with what was happening. And I said, there's something really good happening here. I don't know what, but I'm going to figure it out. So as I said, my club was chartering. It was February of 2015. I was the club sergeant at arms for 16 months. The next year, the natural course for me was to be the club president.
Of course.
Of course.
Sergeant Arms, the president.
Wasn't really an ambition. It just really did feel natural. I clung on to my role as sergeant at arms as if it were the most important role in the club, and I will say to this day that it is.
It is. It is.
The club president role, though, I really grew and I learned a lot about myself, and it was really good to see others find their way into leadership, find their way into what they were doing in the club. So the next year, I became an area director. My district that year had seen such incredible growth. We were the only ones to receive the club, the Excellence Award in Club Growth in the entire world last year at Chicago.
Wow.
While I was an area director, right?
Yes, yes.
While I was Keith Mader, by the way, he was the one responsible for that.
Wonderful.
While I was an area director, I started off with 5 clubs. I ended up with 6 and mentored a 7th. So a lot was going on. I visited my clubs constantly because the relationships that I was building, they were phenomenal and they really helped me. My kids were grown and gone. I didn't really know what my purpose was anymore.
That happens sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
And I go into these clubs and I fill roles like an evaluator, and people were perked up and they were inviting me back to evaluate their speeches, and it was hard not to embrace all of that and see them grow, even though I was an area director and had other clubs as well as my own to still attend to. It was a very good thing.
So it sounds a lot like you doing your best to help others grow and reach their own potential in a way, but in a way you were growing at the same time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
While I was an area director, my district director tapped me on the shoulder.
Yeah?
And she said, you know that guy that worked so hard in club growth this year? And I said, yeah. She said, well, he's not advancing. So we have an opening in our program quality director role, and I think that you would be really good. And I kind of thought that she was a little nuts. Sorry, Ellen, if you see this.
It's okay.
But my mentor sat me down and just reminded me of what I had done so far.
Yeah.
And how this was probably the most perfect time for me to get involved in something like that. And when I did, and then even though I didn't know anything, I embraced the role and I made sure that I learned, and I made a vision and stuck with it through the entire year. And now here I am, district director.
District director, and how long have you been in?
I earned my DTM last year too, by the way.
Congratulations.
again, these weren't
Yes.
part of my plan. It just kind of happened. And when I was visiting clubs and filling roles and contest masters and a chairperson on the conference committee, I mean, there were all these things that kind of really helped get me there.
You know, that's an interesting point. When we work so hard, when we do a good job, people recognize that. And that often opens up avenues for you never seen before.
Right.
Most of us would hit area director, division director, club growth program, quality director, which I am right now. That's natural progression for go-getters.
Right.
But if you're a go-getter and don't really look at that, but people recognize you.
Yes.
That's a good point. And you're talking more and more how you're recognizing the different clubs and helping being evaluated when you're fitting in. And more importantly, giving honest, clear feedback, which is helping people grow. That's a problem a lot of us don't know how to do, is be honest in feedback, because we want everyone to feel good. You're doing great, I love you, you can't do any better. And we leave them like that, and we expect them to grow from that. And you can't.
It's really interesting. One of the things that happened while I was in program quality director role, I knew that people needed to know who I was. I was a baby Toastmaster, so I made a point to go to each spot in my district and be there in person and get to know people. And one of my members last year when I was at a contest, in fact it was the inspirational speech contest, the international speech contest for the division.
Yes.
And he's been around a long time, and he's a pastor. He came up to me and he said, Pam, you know, I don't know that I agree with a lot of the changes the Toastmasters has made. I've heard this a lot.
Sure.
And I said, okay, anything in particular? And he said, yeah, I'm not a fan of the tagline where leaders are made.
Oh, okay.
And I thought, really?
Huh.
I said, I'm a little surprised to hear this. I said, didn't you say you were a pastor? And he said, yes. But some people are really here to become better speakers. And I said, this is true. In fact, today, we're here for the International Speech Contest, with which, if they're done correctly, they're motivational, inspirational. They give you something to take away and to work on or whatever. And
Always a takeaway.
Always a takeaway. And I can tell you that whenever I hear these speeches, whenever I hear a TED Talk, whenever I hear another keynote speaker with another organization, if they touch me, if they reach me, I am going to look that person up and I will become their follower. So if they are here to become a better speaker with their words and their communication, they are leading me. And he was speechless.
Didn't see it that
Speechless,
way.
not at all. And I said, and again, you are a pastor, and I suppose that you rely on people
Following
to follow
is
you.
leading, and we lead by sharing what we know. And when we find something inspirational that touches our hearts, to let others know and let them know. It's so important to let that person that touched you, let them know. Say, I appreciate you. You said something to me that hit me today that I haven't heard in a long time.
Right.
Maybe something you already know.
Right.
But that day, that time, that hour, minute, whatever it is, we needed that story. We needed that message.
That same person this year, so we had about a year to process all of that.
Sure.
And I saw him at club officer training this year, and he came up to me because my opening this year at club officer training talked about really basically what was instilled in me that last year, and that was about being a servant leader. And I talked about this. I talked about servant leadership being really right now the focus for me, because if we're not doing this for the right reasons, we're not going to be successful as a district or as a club.
Short term.
We're here to help each other. We're here to help each other grow. And when I had said this, he came up to me at the end and he gave me the biggest hug. And before I left, I got 3 or 4 more hugs.
Oh, of course.
And he just said, thank you for saying that. And I said, you're welcome. It's true, though. It really is true. And Toastmasters International, and what I have seen, even in this big, grand celebration, the people are here, even our higher leaders, they're here to help us all succeed.
They are. We voted for so many regional advisors, so many international directors, the international president, all of those people. We had over 2,000 people here this week.
Yes.
Not just the weekend, the whole week, because you and I were in training for a good part of the week.
Yes.
This is pretty good. I know. We're
I've
kind
been
of
here
tired.
10 days so far.
Can't wait to go home right now. I understand that very much. really quickly, and you and I know because we've seen specific people who can help.
I think it's designed for everyone.
I think it's designed for everyone.
I think it's designed for everyone. I don't know if people understand that sometimes. I mean, I remember my son, when he was in college, he came to see, I was in the humor speech contest that first year, and he started a comedy club at his college, and I said, I need you to come and let me know what I need to do differently if I'm going to go on. And he came to the meeting, and he said, I don't know, Mom, this seems like a cult to me. And I said, why is that? Because people cared about you when you walked in the door, because they greeted you warmly, because we're here supporting each other, we're letting each other know how to improve themselves through positive feedback. My biggest pet peeve is when I hear someone in Toastmasters use the word critique.
Oh.
If I could get that banished from the language, that's probably my number one goal in this organization. No critiques.
No critique or feedback. We're just share it. Here's my opinion. Take it or not. Let's get better.
Right. I went through art school. I know what a critique is, and they're not always positive. Trust me. And they make people feel bad about themselves, about the work that they've just spent hours and hours and hours on. That is not what we're here to do. We're here to help people grow and learn and get better.
In a supportive environment.
Yes.
We're in an environment, an organization where we're expected to fall and fail, but take those evaluations, not critiques, to become better. And we embrace people, wherever they are in the level. What I like about Toastmasters is we're all at different levels, we're all progressing at our own rate. But more importantly, Toastmasters, yes, speaking's a big part of it, but it's self-development in so many aspects. Our meetings are not just speakers, we have evaluators, we have timers, we have grammarians. It's not to make you feel bad, but to make you and I and everyone just a little bit better.
Right.
So I want to thank you, Pam. Any parting words for someone who's considering Toastmasters and wanting to visit their first meeting?
Whether or not you think you're a leader, you will become one in Toastmasters. If you're here to be a better speaker, if you're here just to figure out what your purpose is, one of the greatest takeaways I have is to help others realize what that purpose is. And I know that Toastmasters in general get that, and it's a wonderful thing. Get to a club soon.
I appreciate you. Hey, this has been in the office with Joseph Skoda. If you have questions about Toastmasters or Pam or what I'm doing, just ask, because we'll tell you. Have a great day. See you soon.